All right, everyone. This is Algebra 2 Concepts notes. We're going to keep moving forward here using whatever we can use, which is my document camera now. And I'm going to go over the notes like we normally do, and you guys can still do the homework. And I've also assigned a few Khan Academy assignments to you as well. So hopefully this gets you guys what you need. If you have any questions, you can email me. You can also, we can set up a Zoom meeting where we can sort of interact that way. But I want to make sure you guys get what you need, so hopefully this video helps with the notes. You don't have to watch these videos. Hopefully they're a useful tool. Obviously there's Khan Academy videos. There's other resources that you can use, so by all means, if you find it helpful to, say, look at the answers that I've posted and fill out the notes yourself, you can do that, or whatever other option you need. But if you find these videos helpful, then please use these. So a rational expression is a ratio of two polynomial expressions. All right, so the steps that you guys like to use are right here. To simplify a rational expression, we're going to factor everything that can be factored. All right, so we're still factoring. We're going to simplify the monomials using our exponent properties that we talked about, and then we're going to eliminate any factors that we can eliminate. So for the first one here, let's pull out anything we can pull out. So the biggest number, or let's look for a number that's the same in the top and the bottom. So 2 goes into both, and that's it. So I'm going to make the top 2 times 10 times, and I'm going to make it x to the 4th times x squared, because that's really x to the 6th, right? When you multiply like bases, you add the exponents. All right, and then the bottom I have 2 times 7 times x squared. So I've just factored out the 2 basically from the top and the bottom, and I've also factored out the x squared from the top so that they can cancel. So this 2 cancels, the x squared cancels, and I'm left with 10x to the 4th over 7 as my final answer. Okay, the next one I'm going to do is 4. I kind of got started, but my recording didn't keep recording. But so what I did is I pulled out a 2 from the numerator, in which case I'm left with r squared minus r minus 20. And then I pulled out an 8 from the denominator, and it left me with r plus 4. All right, so the first step, step 1, is to factor anything that can be factored. All right, so the next step is I'm going to factor this, what I have an arrow pointing to, this quadratic right here. All right, so I'm going to try to factor that into the 2 linear factors like we did before. So 2 linear factors. Let's see, what multiplies to be negative 20 adds to be negative 1. That'd be r minus 5 and r plus 4. All right, and you can guess and check to get that. You can always factor by grouping, but we don't. In this one, guess and check is quick and easy. All right, and we have 8 times r plus 4 left in the denominator. And now these factors cancel. And also 2 goes into 8 4 times. So my final answer is r minus 5 over 4. And I can circle that answer, and we're good to go. Okay, the next one is number 5. All right, so we want to factor. This is a difference of 2 squares, if you remember, in the numerator. So that factors into p minus 7 times p plus 7. That was our difference of 2 squares pattern, if you recall. And then that's going to be over 7 minus p. All right, so this is the tricky part. You can't just cancel the p minus 7 and the 7 minus p. They're actually different. All right, now how are they different? Well, let me factor out a negative 1 from the bottom. I know this seems weird, but follow me real quick. I'm going to factor out a negative 1, and that makes this negative 7 plus p in the denominator, which I'm going to rewrite as let's do p minus 7 times p plus 7 all over negative 1, and I'm going to switch these two terms, so p minus 7 now. So all I did was take these two terms in the expression above and switch them. All right, so I'm going to write it like that instead, and the reason why is because then you can see these cancel, p minus 7, p minus 7, and you really have a negative 1 left over in the denominator. So your final answer is going to be p plus 7 in the numerator over negative 1 times, well, just negative 1, right? And so I should have just written that in the top, negative 1 times this quantity, which if you distribute is negative p minus 7. if you prefer, but that's your final answer. Okay, the next one, number 8, I'm going to try to factor the top first. If I pull out a 5, I'm left with 9 minus w in the numerator. And then in the bottom, I want to factor this. This one's a little bit harder to factor. So I'm going to do this on a separate sheet of paper, just so there's enough room to do it. Because how we did this one earlier in the year, if you remember, we did factor by grouping. So what we wanted is two things that multiplied to be the first and the last multiplied together, which is 27w squared. And we needed two things that added to be the middle term, which is negative 28w. Alright, so what those two things are is 27w, negative 27w, and negative 1w. Those things multiply to be 27w squared, and they add to be negative 28w. Then what we did is we took those two things and replaced them here. Okay, so we still have the 3w squared, but now we have minus 27w minus w plus 9. Alright, so we just replaced these two factors with what was there in the middle, and now we factor by grouping. Alright, so we group together the first two and the last two. First two, we can factor out a 3 w, and we're left with w minus 9. And then in the last one, I'm going to factor out a negative 1, and I'm left with w minus 9. So this was a tough one. I had to pull out a negative 1 from both of these. Now I can factor out this number, w minus 9, out front. And I'm left with what's left over is 3w minus 1. So that was a tricky one to factor. So now I'm going to write this right here. So on the bottom I have w minus 9 times 3w minus 1. Okay, now these will cancel, but once again, one of them's negative. So this one really is a negative w minus 9, just like we did in the previous problem right here. We had p minus 7. I'm sorry, we had 7 minus p and p minus 7. Those are really the same. It's just that one has a negative pulled out. So we're going to pull out the negative from this one and cancel. So if you pull out a negative, you can cancel these two terms again. And that turns into negative 5 over 3w minus 1. If you want to see how that's done again, look back, rewind back to this problem, and see how we pulled out that negative 1. All right, it's not that hard to do, but when you do it, you get, this is your final answer. Okay, so next section of the notes is multiplying rational expressions. Alright, it says that if you have monomials only, you can multiply together, then simplify. And if you have binomials and trinomials, like some of these ones down here, then you can factor everything first, then simplify. Well, look, you can do whatever order you want. It doesn't matter. You just do what makes sense to you. So if you like to multiply together, then simplify, feel free. If you like to factor first, then factor first. I like to factor first. So if I factor first, 2 would go into 6 3 times. These x squareds would cancel. One of these y's cancels. I'm sorry, 2 of these y's cancel, but 2 of these leaving 1 left. So now that becomes 3y to the first. And then I still have on this side, now I'm going to simplify this part. 2 of these y's cancel with 2 of these, leaving y squared left. And 2 goes into 10 5 times and into 18 9 times. So I end up with 5 x to the third y squared all over 9. Okay. Now I'm not quite done yet. I still need to simplify, so these y's can be grouped together, right? I'm going to multiply. Order doesn't matter when I multiply. So I'm going to first cancel this 3, goes into this 9 3 times. And then I have 5x cubed still, and then y times y squared is y to the third. So my final answer is 5x squared y cubed. And I forgot this 3 right here, so all divided by 3. Alright, the next one I'll do is 12. So once again, let's factor first. So let's take a look at the top left. If we factor out a 5 from that and a v, we're left with 2 minus v. Alright, I'll move on to the bottom here. Let's see, we need two things that multiply to be 18 and add to be negative 11. So we know we're going to have v and v. Let's see, 9 times 2. So let's do minus 9 minus 2. And then we're still multiplying by this part over here. So let's see, let's factor this. We need two things that factor, two linear factors here. So we have v and v, two things that multiply to be negative 9 and add to be negative 8. Let's do -9 and +1, like we factored earlier this year. And then we still have 15v in the bottom side of that. Now we can cancel some things. So this v minus 9 cancels with v minus 9. And this 5 goes into this 15 3 times. And this v cancels this v. And then once again, as we talked about, these cancel, but there's a -1 left over. Okay, so I'm going to cancel these and put a -1, just like in problem 7 that we just did. So in the top now, I just have -1 times v plus 1 left over, and in the bottom, all I have is 3. All right, there's different ways to write that answer. I guess I'll write it like this: -1/3 times v plus 1 as my final answer. And if you were to distribute it, it'd be -v/3 minus 1/3. So there's another way to write it if you prefer. Okay, next step is what we do when we're dividing. I'm sorry, I accidentally pulled up the calendar. So the only difference here is when you're dividing, that's really multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to simplify first here. So I'm going to cancel this p with one of these leaving 2 left over. So I have 5q over 16p squared. And I'm still dividing by, and over here I'm going to simplify. 2 of these p's cancel with 2 of these. Whoops, I'm sorry. 2 of these q's cancel with 2 of these, leaving 3 left over. So I have 35. The p squared still there. Didn't mean to cancel that. And then in the bottom I have 8q to the 3rd. All right. Now the difference is I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I have 5q over 16p squared and multiply by 8q cubed over 35p squared. So dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. And now I can cancel some things, hopefully. Looks like 5 goes into 35 7 times, and 8 goes into 16 2 times. Now I can multiply and get my final answer. Q times q to the 3rd is q to the 4th. And then we have 2p squared times 7p squared, so that's 14 if we do 2 times 7. And then p squared times p squared is p to the 4th. So there's my final answer. Okay, let's just try one last one, maybe a more challenging one. This division symbol I'm going to change to multiplication, so we'll do k plus 3 over k, and we'll multiply by 1 over 4k plus 1. And we still need to multiply that by this 16 part here, but this is a difference of 2 squares, once again, and it has the pattern of you take the square root of this part, so 4k, and you do the plus 1, and then you also do the 4k minus 1. That's our difference of 2 squares pattern, right? Take the square root of this, put it here, square root of this, put it there, and you change the sign in between, and then in the bottom you have the k plus 3 still. Now some things cancel, right? Since it's all multiplication, I can cancel this number with this number, 4k plus 1. I don't know what the number is, but it does cancel. This number as well cancels, and I think that's it. So what I'm left with in the top is 4k minus 1, and what I'm left with in the bottom is just k. So there's my final answer. Alright, so you guys can now start the homework. Let me know if you guys get stuck on any of these problems. Email me. I can record a video, or we can do a Zoom meeting of some sort to go over any questions you guys have. Obviously, you guys know where to find the answers. I'll show you that. The answers are on our website, which you guys all have bookmarked. And we're going to go to Algebra 2 Concepts. And we're going to go to Unit 8. This is our last unit. And here you're going to find the notes and homework answers, right? So you can pull those up, check out the notes that we just went over and the homework answers. So you can always double check to make sure if you got it right or wrong. Shows the work there and the steps as well. Also, don't forget to be checking our calendar. I've posted the schedule basically, and we might update this if we're going too fast, or we won't go any faster, but we might slow things down if we need. But here's the homework numbers as well for the homework. We also have Khan Academy recommended assignments that are on your document here. The first one is simplifying rational expressions with common monomial and binomial factors. It's only 4 problems, so hopefully it's pretty easy and gives you some feedback. There's also Khan Academy videos that you can watch along with this. So go ahead and practice, and once again, let me know if you have any questions. Make sure you check in your email and Google Classroom, and I hope this helps, and I hope it goes well.